perfect time to be alone. Kids distracted, wifey on the phone. Slip out the back door with my car keys. If I don't leave now, someone will try and find me. It's different this time right now, solo. I have the perfect plan, nowhere to go.
Welcome to the If You Cook, I'll Clean podcast. I'm your host, Eli Breeden. Today we have something in store for you guys. He hails from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a music educator, a songwriter, a producer, and a media entrepreneur. He's also the CEO and founder of Paytech Refurbishing Computer Services. And he's frequently known or identified as a 5-time Stellar Award nominee. He's holds a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and also a doctorate. Welcome with us, guys. Jameth, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
Good, man. Good. So we're glad we finally got you here on the show. I know it's been quite a struggle to some degree, and we've been attempting to get this scheduled for quite some time, but we certainly want you to know that we appreciate you actually being here with us today. So for some of the first-time viewers that are watching the show today, this show is based on a book that I wrote called If You Cook, I'll Clean, and a lot of the conversations were collected in the barbershop setting, and the conversations are specifically about relationships with guys who had relationships with women, and they speak a lot about their grievances, their concerns in the barbershop setting. So this conversation is going to be centered around that topic to some degree, and we're going to just try to get in the mind of our guest and just kind of pick his brain, and hopefully he can offer some insight in terms of helping couples in their relationships. Okay? So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, what do you think about like the modern day dating, and what do you think, what do you wish could be different?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for letting me come on the show.
Absolutely.
And, these days and these times are so different from back in the day. I'm 46 years old, and so when you talk about dating, it's so different then versus now. For instance, I have students at school because I'm an educator, and they don't have, in my opinion, a lot of respect for some of the girls nowadays. There used to be like a manner of respect. There was some chivalry, is what they used to say back in our days. And a lot of those students and kids, they don't understand. And I think it stems from, how they're being raised. And so when I say, as a father, as a man, and I look back and I'm thinking about dating, right? And I'm like, I have daughters. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want a young man coming to my house because, for real, because dating these days is crazy,
Right.
But I think that I've taught my daughters the correct way so far, on how, they should select. But when it comes to dating these days, it's so different. I remember back in the day, if I was to go on a date, for instance, a real date, I would, first of all, get approval from my parents so that I could actually say, hey, can I go and can I court this young lady? You know what I'm saying? Can I go talk to her, and take her out or something? Sometimes back in those days, they would be like, the parents and everybody else want to come together. We all going to get together and y'all going to go on a date, depending on the age that you were. And you're going to sit down with the family and date that individual. Nowadays, it's pretty much it's on your own. the kids, you may not see nothing but the young man or the young lady or whatever, and they don't know if they have the same morals. And then when it comes to morals and communication, as opposed to with the dating, that's another thing that I look at. I'm gonna tell you something funny. I saw two young individuals at a date one time at a restaurant, right? Nice restaurant they went to on a date on. However, they both had their cell phones out. How do you date and get to know each other when you're preoccupied with your own device? All right. So that's one thing. When I look at dating these days, I'm like, and the funny thing is, I thought in my mind, I was like, what if they were actually communicating at the table via text? There's no personal relationship nowadays. It's everything is social media. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit about dating.
It does, and you reminded me of a story one time because I noticed that quite a bit when I'm out too with the younger generation. They're actually texting each other while they're together, out together.
It's crazy.
And it just seems so unnatural and just a little bit odd to me, because if you're right there with the person, why not just have that conversation? But one thing that I did want to ask you, you just struck a thought in my mind, was being that you have daughters, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that you mentioned was, during our era and our parents' eras, there was a certain monicum of respect that was given to the families, to the mother, to the father, and we say court, or we used to say court back in the days, but if you wanted to court, that young lady, you would go to the parents and you would actually, ask would it be okay to take their daughter out? Yeah. And that was a common thing, especially, being from the South. That's something that we were, it was ingrained in us, and that was something that we were taught to do. So my question to you as a father that is a part of this modern day society, what are you teaching your daughters, or what will you be teaching your daughters in terms of, picking the right, man or boy as it would be, and if that particular, and this is a loaded question,
yeah,
but if that particular boy, right, has not learned or has been taught those morals, how will you compensate, or in terms of grace, would you offer that God grace?
It's a good question. That's a real good loaded question, because the reality is that you have a lot of young men out here that don't have fathers. Fortunately, my daughters have father in the house, and that's me. And so and I don't have any sons.
Right.
But if I did, I would tell my son how he would need to treat a young lady. It's a very hard situation. However, it all depends on the young man who wants to date my daughter. Mm-hmm. Okay? He has to be able to understand that there is some respect, because if there's no respect, he cannot be trained, to be able to deal with the pressure that's going to come from us. Right. Because it'll all be in love, but you're not going to disrespect my daughter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so in that space too, I'm also going to give you enough chance to understand, because I might be that father figure in his life that he never had.
Right.
And so that would be my thing right there. It's like to take him under my wing and to show him what it's like to be in a full family, unless he comes already equipped with those things, because every young man is not the same.
Right.
Some of them have a full family, but however, if it's one, because you hate to be a stereotypical person on certain things, but some things are true.
Right.
You're not going to come in my house with your pants down. You're not going to come in cussing.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to come in disrespecting anybody in my house, including me or my daughters.
Right.
And so those are standards. You got to have standards. But if you can understand those standards, you have a little bit, to understand that, hey, this is an authority figure, because it's all about adults, just period. You know, you don't come in and mistreat anybody who's your elder or whatever. So, you know, that's how I would approach it. Because it's a funny story with this too, is that my daughter actually has a new boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That has to be kind of tough on you, I would assume.
and I have not met him yet.
Okay.
So if she's going to be watching the show here soon, look, this is the pre-conference. This is the pre, because after this, you're going to know exactly what I'm expecting.
No, you can look in that camera and tell and talk to him if you need to talk to him.
Young man, I'm gonna let you know. You got a lot coming from this family right here. The McKinneys don't play.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's somewhat personal. So, and I'm sure she knows her father. So
Yeah.
she knows, you know, when the right time will be for you guys to meet,
Yeah.
or for her to introduce him to you. So that's good, man. I think, you know, it is important to have these conversations, because, you know, this is something that's been lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Respect has been lost. You know what I mean? And we have a culture of, you know, kids, in which you stated, the kids they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't have that father figure. So I couldn't even imagine, man, having a daughter, you know, because I just don't know how I would respond, you know what I mean, to, you know, disrespect.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems so prevalent these days, especially from what I've witnessed and from what I see. Just, you know, even within the school system, just the respect just for adults just seems to have diminished and gone away to some degree. So I appreciate that, man. So, yeah, man. So, you know, it is, as I mentioned, you know, it is important to have these conversations, but I couldn't imagine having a daughter at all.
Imagine having 4.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And what are their ages?
Okay. 20. One's about to be 22.
Okay.
19. One's about to be 11.
Okay.
And 4.
Wow.
Yeah, I have this whole spectrum. I've seen them grow up. I've seen them born and be in the middle. I have all the ages of girls.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a big one. Imagine being the only man at the house.
I can't imagine that.
That's
that
why
has to be
you
quite
cook,
stressful.
I clean.
Yeah, if you cook out clean. Right.
So you can imagine your book with that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So who does a lot of the cooking and cleaning around the house?
To be honest with you, I do most of the cooking.
You do?
At one time.
Okay.
My wife is starting to do more cooking now.
Oh, good.
But if you know, they love my cooking, you know, for a while. And then my oldest, she actually cooks. She's a chef.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
I mean, she's a professional chef.
yeah, she got her license as far as like in high school.
Culinary school?
Yeah, culinary. Like, but
Oh,
she
wow.
she hasn't gone to college yet for it 100%.
Okay.
But to me, she's a chef.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So she's pretty good.
She's pretty good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Her food's great.
That's a great start.
Makes me hungry right now thinking about
Okay.
it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So another question that I had in mind was, you know, we spoke about, you know, your daughters. We spoke about how, you know, when they start dating, how, you know, what your expectations are to some degree as it relates to respect. I guess my next question would be, how do you handle, and not you per se, but how have you handled, you know, disrespect in the past when it came to, you know, some of your relationships?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I love being on this show.
Okay,
You
I
ask such
appreciate it.
great questions.
Okay.
See, one of the things is with men, we have a lot of mental health that's undiagnosed. Okay, men are expected to be more than what some men are, you know, and that's you know, we're not looked at as people that have emotions. You're not supposed to have emotions. You're not supposed to have to care about nothing but providing for your family. That's what we look for. What we look at. we're looked at as, excuse me. However, we have a lot of bottled up anger.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of bottled, man, we're bros, man. So
Right.
we got a lot of bottled up anger in life,
Right.
you know. And one thing, one of the biggest thing is that we're ticking time bombs.
Yeah.
You hit the wrong button, you're gonna be like surprised. You're like, oh my God, where did that come from?
Right.
Because of the fact it just builds, it builds and builds and
Right.
builds. And so what you have to do, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming just from a man perspective,
Right.
of course. The women, they can have their perspective of it, but I think that the best thing in the whole entire world is for men to have a time to be able to grieve, to be able to be sad, to be able to cry or whatever it is that they need to do, and not feel like you're any less of a man because you have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people to accept it. Because in relationships, a lot of times, it's a lot of give. Like you say, you cook, I clean. All right? Well, I'm doing a whole lot of cooking and cleaning. But then when the woman comes and she gives all her, like, oh, this ain't happening, that ain't happening, I need this. Sometimes we can't even express the same thing.
Right.
You know, and that really hurts us inside because we feel like we're not being recognized too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the best thing to do is to have a conversation. You know, most people don't understand that if you just have a conversation and you talk about things and talk things out and be persistent in letting things be heard, because a lot of times too, this on the flip side with us men, like I said, we're labeled, but we don't want to say nothing.
Right.
You know, if we don't say anything, then it's our problem too. You know, and then it builds up, like I said, you're a ticking time bomb, you explode.
Right.
And next thing you know, you either become abusive in some way, or you look like you're abusive because you got mad and had anger. Because our anger is different from women. If a woman gets mad and she goes off and hits you, it looks different than a man going off and hitting and knock a woman out or something crazy. So you know what I'm saying? Those are things you have to think about. You know what I'm saying? Right. You don't want to end up in jail. And so you have to you gotta come to grasp with like, hey, wait a second. You know what I'm saying? And let's talk. You know, I know I went pretty far.
No, that's good. I mean, it's good to, you know, have that conversation because our audience, you know, would appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, the last show that we did, I was sharing with our guests some of the grievances that men had within the book. And one thing that she brought to my attention, which is in the book as well, it speaks a lot about conversation. So some of the stories, and I'll give you like how the setup is, but typically the client is speaking to the barber, right? And for that small frame of time, the barber is offering suggestions and offering advice, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes horrible. But for the most part, you know, they're therapists for their clients. So one of the things that she mentioned, which was good, and it was in the book as well, she said, well, sometimes maybe it's the fact that maybe you guys don't know how to communicate what it is that you truly desire effectively.
Yeah.
To some degree,
I
mean, give or take, but for the most part, that's what she said. And, you know, it's true because, you know, if, you know, you have grievances and they're bottled up and the only thing you know how to do is maybe, you know, shield or hide some of those feelings, you know, from your spouse, he or she, but we're going to say she for the sake of conversation, she'll never know. And what happens is over a period of time, you know, it just compounds to the point where you will explode. And sometimes we aren't always the best stewards of practicing restraint.
Yeah.
We don't always know how to practice restraint.
Yeah.
And it can be it can be bad. If you don't learn how to do that. So those conversations are necessary, and they're very important to have. And that's, you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
But I was going to give you a good scenario.
Okay.
Here's a scenario for the audience. All right. If you're mad and the other person's mad, imagine two freight trains going as fast as possible. If they crash, everybody dies, right? However, what if you were one of those trains and the other one's coming as fast as possible and you rail off to the other side? Then you have a chance. Because the problem is, at the end of the day, is that if you're mad, if she's mad, nothing's going to get accomplished. But if one person sits back and say, hey, you know what? I need to regather myself, because the best way, they say, how do you kill people with? How do you kill people? You may know this answer right off. We always say kill people with kindness.
Yeah.
All right. The more kind that you show towards your, your spouse, the more kindness you show towards your girlfriend, boy, whatever it is, then they can't be as mean to you as possible. You know what I mean? Like, they start coming down, no matter what. It's like, if you're humble, somebody can't stay mad at you forever. And then after that, after you both have died down, maybe you come back to the center table and have a conversation. It's all about conversation and communication.
And that's a great approach, I think, to have. But I can say, unfortunately, that doesn't always work, depending on who the individual is. But it's certainly a great approach.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what has probably helped me a lot in terms of my personal growth is therapy. Therapy and discovering, more about why I am the way that I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think once you start digging into some of your own psyche in terms of, your own personal history and how you're triggered and where some of those things stem from, you can control it a lot better. But, and I like that scenario. I don't want to, be combative in the sense that, creating other scenarios that, just don't align with, that analogy that you gave. But I do know sometimes there are some people that are impossible to just deal with.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah, because some folks will, bottle up that anger and they'll hold on to things forever and never let them go.
That's a good one.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
it's like,
and no matter how humble and meek you seem, or you are and seem to be.
That's why the train scenario is good too, because if you don't crash, you keep on going, and that person keep on going too. So that's why that analogy is so good, because it's both ways. Like, you can keep going, or you can come back to it, or you can just keep going, forget about it. Like, because you're right. Some people are impossible.
Yeah.
Some people will hold on to something like
forever.
Family Feuds. Look at those.
Right.
You
hearing about stuff 10 years later, and that's in the book too.
Yeah.
A guy was talking about. Were you going to say something?
No.
A guy was at a family gathering, right?
Yeah.
And an old scenario that triggered that woman came up at the family gathering. And it was like, this guy was like, where is this coming from? Like, you're talking about something that was so many years, you know what I mean?
In the past.
That happened so long ago.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing it up now? Like, and it made that person even angrier, because it was like, I thought we were over this. And only for him to discover that, you know what, she was still holding on to something that unfortunately was triggered at this family gathering. And he found out she wasn't over it, man. And it caused even more confusion.
I just, like, for the life of me, I forget stuff like a few minutes later. I'm the type of person.
That may be a good trait to have. That's a good trait to have.
I'm like, you say something, a couple things. I mean, if it still, this is if it still affects me in some way, what you did, then maybe I'd think about it. But if it was something just like, we had an argument and we disagreed or something, it's like, okay, so I'm not going to hark on that. Come back later. What is all that?
Right.
No drama, man. I try not to have no drama.
Right.
But we all have it.
Right. And we might have already discussed this, but one of my questions was going to be like when emotions run really high, right? Mm-hmm. How do you deal with those particular circumstances and situations when, everybody's like very upset? And I know you mentioned the train scenario, but what if the train scenario or analogy or whatever did not work, right? So what are some other alternatives that you would say?
You actually answered that yourself earlier.
Okay.
You said therapy, because that's one thing, because sometimes you need a third party, to be able to help, somebody who you can trust to be a neutral party in the middle.
Right.
Because it might, you're hot-headed, you're mad. The other person may not be mad no more, but you're still holding on. Somebody needs to be able to see themselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Be like, you need to see that you're wrong.
Right.
Somebody because sometimes, for instance, I'm gonna tell you that this is good.
Okay.
In a relationship, that you might be able to tell your spouse something or your girlfriend or whatever something. They ain't paying you no attention. But then here comes somebody else say the same thing you said, and it's like gold.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's funny you said that. There's a scenario in the book with that same, because I think so many couples go through that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not anything unique necessarily. It's actually ubiquitous. So it's universal. You know what I mean? So a lot of people go through that same thing.
Well, it's in the same aspect of celebrities, for instance. And, I know a lot of celebrities, and they're just like regular people at home.
Right.
But when they go out to the public, it's like, oh, but then you go back to your high school friends as a celebrity, they're like, oh, that's just him. He ain't nobody. I remember when he was a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the same aspect of that. It's like you don't really get respect at home. It's in the Bible. It talks about that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good, man. Good. Yeah. So, yeah, man. So, like I was saying, there was a scenario in the book where, and I don't remember exactly, but this couple was having an internal debate. But it's almost like, someone will take the word of someone else quicker than they'll take from you, whether, male or female in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I'm sure there's probably a terminology for that.
Yeah.
But, they'll take the word of someone else's quicker than, and it's like, I just told you that. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday. And you ignored it, and you're acting as if this information is brand new to you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I said, I think a lot of people actually go through that, and it can be disheartening to some degree.
People get used to, in a relationship, because you're jogging some great things. In a relationship, people get used to each other.
Right.
Oh, that's just my spouse. That's just after a while. And it's like, by the time you get finished with that, you're just like kind of like lower level in the mindset. You're always there. This appreciation value. Yeah. It's like, oh, I come home, they'll be there. Right. I'll go. They'll always have this for me. They'll always have that for me. And this is, both ways. And then you start getting a little bit. So you gotta do something in a relationship to address that. As far as what do you call it? You gotta, I'm looking for the word to say. You gotta, not put nobody on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? But you have to find a way to notice the person that you're dating or the person that you're with daily. Write letters and notes and say, hey, I love you. And just something small. I love you. Have a good day. make breakfast or something for them, or warm the car up when they're going to work or whatever, and just say, I just want to let you know I'm doing something for you because I love you.
Right.
Things like that matter a lot in a relationship. Like you say, you cook, I clean. Like clean the house. Man, like what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes we forget that we need to do certain things or whatever. You see the wife and she's doing X, Y, and Z, or even in some aspects the husband, he's doing X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm outside cutting grass. Bring me a glass of a tea or something, water or something, because it's hot outside. Things that just help out. You see the baby need to be changed, what I'm saying, go up and change the baby, or whatever it needs to be. Like you say, you cook, I clean, man. For the audience, I'm just telling y'all out here, these kids out here, they need to hear this as they grow up, because we may be their only role models in the house as men, and we got to show them what men do, what men are supposed to be, our roles.
Right.
So what is a man? You know what I mean? What is a man supposed to do? I don't know. You know what I mean? That's what some kids would probably tell you. Some young men will be like, I don't know what a man actually supposed to do.
Right.
Because they don't see that.
Right.
They see women raising the men.
Right.
Nowadays. And they raise up a different way.
Right.
And I'm almost going to say that way.
Right. So you just reminded me of one of the chapters in the book. It's called Forget Me Not. So there are a few stories about, guys in relationships, and over a period of time, their wife, their girlfriend, their spouse, they forget who they are. So I believe that particular chapter starts out with, remember who that person was in the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And something you said, triggered that thought, because oftentimes we are, and I'm going to use the example from the book, but oftentimes guys are in relationships, and over a period of time, their lady forgets who they are. Like that same intelligence that they had, that same drive that they had, that same progressive nature that they had, all of those positive, attributes that they have still exist. But I think you, as you mentioned, get so comfortable with individuals, you just start believing.
That was the word, comfortable. I was
Yeah.
looking for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and complacent.
Yes.
And you become, so complacent that, you just look at this person as a regular person. And on top of that, that can, to some degree, some relationships can stagnate your growth. You know what I mean? Because I've seen, and I think there's some stories in that particular chapter as well. I've seen stories where the guy or the female, but for the sake of the book, this is a guy's perspective, that guy, becomes better when he exits the relationship. Because all of those things that she was attracted to in the beginning, he still possessed. But it was stagnated, and his growth was kind of stunted to some degree when he was in that relationship, because they felt like there were certain things they just couldn't do. Whether it was they didn't want to overshadow or feel as if they outgrew that particular relationship, or maybe they just felt like they didn't want to, create any issues as it relates to, maybe jealousy, envy, or because those things exist in relationships too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So some of those stories you just reminded me of, like, it's important, whether male or female, don't forget, who that person was in the very beginning, because although you feel like you know them based on whatever your perception may be, that may not necessarily be the case, because they may be way more than, you're even giving them credit.
Yeah. Man, I love it, man. I love it because, like, I know we probably have limited time.
We do.
But I want to say this one thing about that. I love the term iron sharpens iron. We use that a lot of time, men sharpening men. But it also, in a relationship, it's the same way. it's like you got to be with somebody who's going to sharpen you,
Right.
and you can sharpen them back,
Right.
because y'all are building,
Right.
you know. And if you're dull in life, and you're not being sharpened, there's a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why, like you say with your book, you know, the things that the spouse or the person does is to help the other person, because they have a load to bear. And if you're equally doing those things, because like back in the day, like in the traditional family, you know, you had roles, which I still believe are a good thing to have roles. Of course, we've graduated from a different role, but everybody still has to have some type of way to help each other out,
Right.
you know, because that's what we're for. If we're family, we're supposed to be helping each other,
Right.
you know.
Right. And you just reminded me too, because, and this book is coming back to memory, some of these stories, but when an individual forgets who you are, and I'll give you a couple of scenarios, but sometimes, and this is another chapter in the book, is called The Grass is Greener.
Oh,
Yeah, I believe that's one of the first chapters in the book. So oftentimes when someone forgets who you are, they start believing that the grass is greener on the other side. And they start potentially entertaining other relationships, you know, as it pertains to them believing that, you know, these other opportunities, these things that I see, these shiny objects, you know what I mean, that seems perfect
yeah,
from the outside looking in, are going to be better.
yeah,
And unfortunately, in most case scenarios that I've documented in the book, and these were real conversations, the grass was never greener on the other side.
man, yeah,
The grass was never greener on the other, whether it was the appeal of having more, you know what I mean,
yeah,
or
yeah,
perceiving to have more. Because I'll tell you, man, it when you don't necessarily appreciate what you have at home, right? Anything can seem appealing.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And just because, and just for sake of this analogy, just because it's green doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm hearing all that.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
It
do.
doesn't mean that the roots are healthy. It doesn't mean that the soil, you know what I mean, has
Yes.
all of the nutrients to help those particular seeds grow. Why are you leaving something that you're sure of, and you're running after something that's unsure?
Yeah.
And that reminds me also, and I use this analogy all the time. We're not turning this into a religious show, but you know, in the very beginning, right?
Yes.
Somebody ate that apple.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they ate that apple. And I like to say because they thought the grass was green on the other side.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
Yeah, so it's nothing new. And I think we're constantly, you know, being faced with, you know, those challenges on a daily basis in these relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what so that just leads me to my next question. How do you prevent, you know what I'm saying, or how do you cultivate, and how do you plant seeds and water your own grass? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to prevent potentially the grass being greener on the other side.
Well, I tell you, man, that's a really good and that's a tricky question at the same time.
No, we're not going to make it
Because,
personal. It's just
It's
advice that we're going to offer.
oh no, definitely. It's because you know, like I say, you know, you said it's not a religious show, but we have all sinned and come short of the glory. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we all have made mistakes. But I want to tell people out there, if you are thinking about making a mistake as far as like seeing something that's greener on the other side, you got to outweigh the risk. You got to weigh the risk or whatever. You got to see what's the risk, what's the reward, what are you doing it for? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes when I look at it this way, there's two ways to look at that too. You may not be happy because of something else. Somebody could be getting abused at home. You know, you could be having some type of problems or whatever that you just are not happy with, and then somebody comes and sweep it off your feet. So that's another way of looking at that. Even though, you know, because I'm just thinking about the aspect of, like, some people see the grass is greener. There's two ways to look at it. Like, here's the way: the grass is greener on the other side because you just greedy. You know, say you see that grass, but you already got good grass over here. But if your grass is hay over here, completely hay, then you looking at that green grass like, man, you know, I might need to go that way. You know, because there might be something that you might need to leave out of. Domestic violence, abuse, you know, stuff like that. So those are exceptions.
Right.
You know.
And you just triggered another thought, because another chapter in the book is called third party influence, right? So with the grass being green on the other side, well, grass isn't always green on the other side, but that's
you said the word
chapter.
always, so it's not always, but it could be.
Right.
Yeah.
Forget me not.
Yeah.
Right. Those lead up to potentially, especially with the grass being greener, sometimes it's fueled by third party influence, because misery loves company, which is a chapter in the book as well. So sometimes third parties will influence individuals to seek outside relationships, or, you know, seek relationships that, you know, temporarily may make them feel better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So have you heard of, or do you know of, nothing personal, but third party influence, or individuals who are, you know, speaking in someone's ear to potentially influence them to do something outside of their relationship?
That's the same as peer pressure.
Right.
That's the same. That's exactly what that is. That's peer pressure, or
Right.
you know, somebody giving you their thought. Like you said, at the barbershop, it's not always good advice.
Right.
A lot of times they're giving, you know, you're getting some advice, but not all advice is good, because a lot of people talk. Well, everybody talks about what they feel. Everything's emotion. It comes out for what they feel and what they think, and then some people want to control you.
Right.
Some people want to see you burn.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so people will lead you, especially if they're a good smooth talker, know how to talk, tell you what to do, lead you straight to your demise. And sit there and take the shovel and throw the dirt over you.
Right.
That's what I see that as.
Okay. Yeah, you're just triggering some thoughts about the book, because I know, unfortunately, there are individuals who that's their objective.
Yeah.
They come to steal, kill, and destroy, and you know, they just don't want other folks to be happy. And that's what I tell people, especially individuals who truly want to make their relationships work. Like, you got to leave people out of your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to leave people out of your home.
Even family.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Family is the biggest, because
Yeah.
like, you grow up with family, and you're like, family is, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, I can't break that bond. Family give you the wrong advice all day.
Right.
And sometimes that'll break your relationship up faster than anything else in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. So, yeah, like I said, there are a lot of situations where you have these, you know, negative, you know, influences, and their only objective is just to see you, you know, suffer, or they just don't want you to be successful. And unfortunately, if you don't know, or if you don't have the discernment to be able to even recognize when it's coming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it hurts worse when it's someone close, when it is family. You know what I mean? And I have plenty of stories with family members intentionally trying to ruin people's relationships because their relationships weren't successful.
Had a stronghold. That's the word.
Absolutely.
A stronghold on a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the book, man, and I don't want to give too many stories away, but there was a family member, right, who, now in this case, it was probably a good thing, right? They were trying to actually warn them about an individual who was already married, and they were getting married to that individual. So it was actually a good thing that they were trying to warn them about. But, when you're in a relationship, sometimes if you try to interfere, even if it's positive, right? Even if it's for their best interest, if you interfere with that, it's only going to make them seek that relationship even more. And you become, the bad guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You become, and it's like, you, is it, do I do something about this, or do I just leave it alone? But in that particular case, in that story, that individual tried to intervene and tried to warn them that this guy was already married. They didn't want to hear it. So, needless to say, they didn't stay married long at all because she ultimately found out he was already married.
Man, you about to go to jail that way.
Now, this happened many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know from a legal perspective how he was even able to do that. But
Yeah.
no, nothing ever happened to him. But
Yeah.
because he technically was already married, so legally he couldn't be married again.
Yeah.
But they had a ceremony. But she found out later he was already married. But it was a situation where it kind of tore them apart, meaning the family member who tried to warn her,
Yeah.
she still, still didn't really, respect the fact that he tried to warn her about that situation. So
Yeah.
you just brought that to my mind. So yeah, man, it's great conversation.
Yeah.
You know,
Really good.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we appreciate you being here. So, yeah, man, those are my thoughts on that. Do you have anything else you would like to share with our audience about relationships, about some of the things that you think would help someone trying to be successful or as successful as you've been in some of your relationships? What advice could you offer them?
Well, I'll just say this is one thing I just want to say to people out there. I'm not perfect.
Of course.
I'm not perfect,
Of
and
course.
I'm doing the reason why I'm even doing this show. Two reasons, because you my main man guy.
Okay.
I'm glad I met you.
Okay.
And I
Likewise.
love everything what you're doing.
Okay.
It's making me I'm really excited.
Okay,
But
good.
besides the fact that I gotta throw that to the side,
Okay.
the other part is I want to do this because I want to help somebody else out there. You know what I'm saying? Not make bad mistakes, not bad choices, and to be able to understand that it's never too late to get help, to be able to help your relationship, and to be able to move forward and, and appreciate the person that you with.
Right.
That's the biggest thing that I just want to just like tell the young people out there, learn, saying some respect and how how dating works, all whatever that we talked about, like as far as relationships, because we got to be better people
Right.
in this world.
Right.
And like I say, once again, thank you, man, my brother. And I appreciate you, appreciate your show, and I want this thing to flourish, man. It's great.
I appreciate that.
It's
I
great.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, for our new listeners, this show isn't a divisive show. We're not, arguing and going back and forth, and we know those shows sell, but this isn't one of those shows. If we can touch one person out there, as far as I'm concerned, that's enough, because we're more concerned about bringing individuals closer together versus tearing people apart. And what I say often is it only takes one or two people to change the world. And we can do that just through mere conversations. and that's what we're doing now. So we appreciate you being on this show, and since we have a little bit more time, tell the people, and I know we can't advertise, but tell the people about some of the things that you may have going on in the future.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, one of my biggest things that I'm working on is community.
Okay.
We're trying to, get the students at my schools and the surrounding communities, we're trying to get them career ready. Because growing up, I remember I had mentors and things like that. That's why it also goes along with your show. Because those mentors helped steer me in the right direction. I heard the word entrepreneur when I was 9. Ever since then, because I asked my mentor, I said, "What's that mean?" He said, "It's a person that owns their own business." Ever since I was 9, I was business mindset, had a business mindset, and that opened up the awareness. Although I grew up and I had things that happened in patterns and things that I was not, doing what I was supposed to do towards that a lot of times, I always came back to it because it was something that was ingrained in me. I remember I used to sell candy in school, because I always man, I used to love to make money. We had a candy lady in our neighborhood, and she had penny candy. All right, everybody go buy candy, right? Well, I made a deal with her to where I would sell out her van.
Wow.
Because of the fact that I was had that business mindset. But all this goes those are stories, but those go with mentorship and people being able to educate our community, because we have so many students out there that don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what their goals and aspirations are. When you were a kid, what did somebody ask you about what you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, it was always being employed.
Yeah. And say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" But I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be people, we'd have that all the time. What do you want to be when you grow up? Nowadays, I don't know if I see that in school as much. What do you want to be when you grow up? But a lot of people nowadays, they're so geared, and it's always been in our community geared towards sports. People still I want to play in the NBA, I want to play in the NFL. But, I tell you, with those mentors, they used to always say, "Okay, you're a good athlete, but this is the thing. You got to get an education first. Because if we're not educated, we're not going to be able to, to succeed. Even with the education of relationships, it's something that somebody has to teach you. Somebody has to teach you how to be whatever it is you are. People say I'm self-taught. You are self-learning,
Right.
but somebody else taught you.
Absolutely.
And so
even if it's a book that you read, someone else wrote the book.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm listening. You were saying.
Oh no, yeah, you're good, man. And so with that, we're just trying to get awareness of the community, because there's so many stories. Your kids, the kids in the neighborhood, they grow up and different things like that, and then you can see the good and you can see the bad. But as an educator, you're like, man, I had a chance because they were all in my classroom, and that's really hard, to see the bad. I really, for real, no joke, man. I have a lot of students who have taken my classes and been with me in different things and have really gotten pretty big, and gone into the fields that I've taught them.
That's good.
And it makes you feel real good at the end of the day, because when I was in school myself, even though I had those mentors and things like that, I still strayed off a little bit. And, I was thanking God that I came back around full circle, because I wasn't even going to go to college at first, but I got an opportunity because of the fact that I was in something else, and so the direction, like we say, all this, the path, direction, and different things like that. People got to have a path and a direction. If you grow up, like you say, in a single parent home, most of the time, if you just have a mother and you don't have a father, you see that you won't respect mama, because I see that in class. Kids respect a woman to a certain degree, you know what I'm saying? But to a certain degree, when a guy gets older, that respect, it's like you got a don't nobody touch my mama approach, but you would disrespect your own mama by not following her rules in the house because you done got bigger than mama.
Right.
You know, and so people see that perspective and don't know what the man's role is. I think I spoke about that. And then so they don't know what a man is supposed to be. So then that trickles into their life relationships. And so they treat their spouse, you know, because I like to come from a man's perspective a lot of times.
Right.
Because, like, you know, men are supposed to be that, you know. And so, like, then they trickle to the spouse. And next thing you know, you treat them like you treat your mama. You know what I'm saying? Disrespectful. You know what I mean? Because, like, to be honest, a mama can't raise a boy to be a man. And that's just my opinion. You know, a man can't raise a girl to be a woman. You know, you got to have both perspectives to be a full-fledged person.
Right.
You know, it's a lot.
No, it was good, though, because you reminded me of when I was growing up. Like, there are certain things we learn at an early age, right? So probably 10 or 11, you know, we had a Bible camp, our family, down in my hometown. So we were working early, you know, whether it was cleaning camp up or, you know, doing some of the landscape or cutting the grass, I would say, you know. So a lot of those, you know, things we learn early, and it makes a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to, you know, how you treat your own relationships, because once if you get that foundation early, and now I know it's a little bit different. They have all these laws, labor laws or what have you, but you know, once you start learning responsibility early, you know, it creates, you know, a mentality of, you know, I am going to be responsible with my life. And it's just small things that we learn, you know, at an early age that made us the men that we are today. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, for various numbers of reasons, it's just non-existent to some degree. So that your stories definitely resonate when it comes to that, and I'm sure that what you're doing, and we'll talk about it later, but what you're doing in the community is certainly positive, and it seems like it will be impactful.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely,
Appreciate that.
definitely. So guys, thanks again for joining the If You Cook I'll Clean podcast. We will see you guys soon for the next episode.
Your shoes, no matter what I do, as long as I